Recording in progress.
All right, good afternoon. Call to order the Wednesday, July 16, 2025 meeting of the Plastic Reduction Bylaw Task Force. So welcome, everyone. We have some folks who are... Okay. Okay, sorry. Seriously, huh? Okay. We do have some folks remotely there. I know I see some representatives from Stop and Shop, and I'm curious to know if we have anybody from the town of Falmouth who may be on remotely at this point.
I think Phil is.
Okay, let's just wait and see if we can't get him recognized here, because if folks don't mind, because we have some folks that are participating remotely and they have things, if we could take them out of order and hear from them and then get to the other matters at hand we got there. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah. All right, great. So let's start with anyone who may be here from the Falmouth Board of Health or the town of Falmouth. All right, well, let's table that one. And let's go on to the folks at Stop and Shop. Christina, good afternoon. How are you today?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am very well, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for joining us here today and for your folks that have joined us throughout some of these other meetings. And I guess I'll kind of defer to you, Christina, of where you would like to take the topic for us to consider this afternoon. I know I have a few questions as relates to Falmouth, and that's why I wanted to talk with them first, but maybe take some input from you folks to start with.
Okay, if it's okay, I'm going to share a presentation, just some materials. I'm going to try this. And it says I have to send a request. Let me see if this works. I've never shared actually on Zoom before. Can everybody see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Wow, it worked. So we just put together a few slides just to share some information about what we are doing and some of the challenges with, again, the proposed ban as it stands today. And bear with me, I just need to see how I need to change slides here because that's posing to be difficult. Let's see here. Don't know why it won't switch. Oh, there we go. So again, just kind of sharing with you, we obviously have a very established sustainability program, not just for Stop and Shop, but for all of the major banner brands. We're also a sister company with Hannaford Supermarkets. So we're all part of the same sustainability mission. Obviously, our main focuses are food waste reduction, healthy sales. Obviously, we want to promote healthy living and healthy eating with our consumers and our families in the areas that we operate. Obviously, recycling, not just plastics, but a lot of other things that we recycle, wax, cardboard, wood and metal, a lot of other things. Anything that we can get out of the waste stream, we're doing our best to do that. And then obviously overarching the reduction in emissions, right? When you talk about zero waste goals and all of that, reduced carbon emissions kind of ties right into that. We're really focused on protecting the planet overall and all of the people in it. We work with suppliers on a continual basis. I know Wayne joined us in the last meeting. He's one of our folks that deals with our packaging suppliers. We work with them year round trying to find feasible alternatives, right? To get some of these plastics out of the waste stream, maybe obtain compostable alternatives, things like that. We also, if you look at the picture on the bottom right, we also in the last few years have built our own anaerobic digester. That takes all of the food waste from probably 200 and I think it's around 230 stores, all of our stores in Massachusetts, primarily in North, to recycle all of our own food waste. So we're obviously very committed to sustainability and recycling from that aspect. And then obviously you see all the other things that we do recycle. We do have a zero waste goal, a very ambitious one, end of year 2026. Obviously, in working with a lot of these package concerns and there not being availability, I'm not sure if we'll get there, but I think we'll get there in respect to anything that we can eliminate. So let me go to the next slide. This is just a sample picture of Yarmouth. We took some pictures. This you could probably pretty much find in every single one of our stores. We have bins for our customers and our associates to recycle all sorts of plastics. So plastic bags, mail bags, any kind of plastics that the customers want to bring back. We have those bins. This is a picture in the middle of a truck taking back recyclables to our warehouse. So all the plastics, all the cardboard, wax cardboard is going back to our distribution facility to get recycled. And then you'll see on the right, we have additional recycling bins that we rolled out, and then a trash bin that goes with it, right? We don't want the trash in with the recyclables, so we give the customer all of the options to recycle anything that they can when they visit our stores. So getting into some of the concerns, right? And we've talked about a lot of this because the Falmouth proposed ban is banning all 1 through 7. So that's kind of what we're talking about right now if we're looking to adopt that. So again, our areas of focus are like cut fruit, cut veg. We're going to be very limited, if at all, be able to sell some of those products. In-store bakery or deli and prepared foods, and also meat and seafood. So it really pretty much touches every single one of our perishable departments at this point. So we do not have alternatives that are suitable or stable enough or sustainable enough for a lot of the products. Again, we're a little different from a restaurant in that it's not a short-term storage, right? We're not just giving a customer something to take home and eat that day or the next day. We're providing packaging that's hopefully going to provide longevity of quality to this product for upwards of a week, and also to provide packaging that's food safe, right? To keep the product safe from a food safety perspective. And also some of these packagings, when you look at alternatives, you also have to consider heat safety standards. Like our rotisserie chickens and our hot fried chicken, they can't just be put in any kind of container. It has to meet some specific heat safety standards for some of those items. So again, limiting these plastics, basically limiting all of those plastics is going to greatly limit what products we can actually provide to the customers. And then the other, I think we mentioned the last time, is if we ban them all here, our customers are probably just going to go elsewhere, right? To some neighboring town that doesn't have this restriction. They're going to buy those items there and most likely return to Yarmouth and then dispose of those plastic items in the town. So by pushing people elsewhere, I'm not sure we're servicing best. Our whole initiative here, right, is to really overall reduce plastic use. Go to the next slide. I know this is lengthy. I apologize. There's a lot of words in here. But there's a lot of different towns that were asked to comply with some of these ordinances, but they're a lot less restrictive. They're not limiting all of those plastics. However, we are obviously considering Falmouth. Falmouth is still on the docket for banning all 1 through 7, so that is a huge concern of ours. And like I had said on our last call, I have reached out to them and they still do not have a waiver process in place yet. So it's going to be very difficult for us to comply and or sell particular items once that becomes live in that town. Just kind of read through this. There's a lot of words here. It says polystyrene packaging. Most alternative packaging, non-polystyrene, are produced internationally. Obviously, we touched about the supply chain issues. Often we'll have a product, we'll be able to use it, and then all of a sudden there's an issue with supply chain, and then we can't get that product anymore. So sometimes we'll be able to sell an item, don't have the packaging anymore, can't sell the item, and then so can be a disruption when it comes to these alternative type packaging, if you will, with supply chain. So sometimes that's a concern of ours as well. It says at the bottom here, Stop and Shop is a proud thought as a leader in the sustainability space because of all of our recycling and energy efficiency programs and our goal to net zero emissions. So again, love to talk about that. We obviously have bans in Revere as well that we're working with Revere, the town of Revere right now, to try to limit the amount of plastics that they're banning. Again, focusing in on the ones we can get out of the waste stream right now. We're not asking that we don't want to have certain plastics banned, but let's focus on the ones we can actually get out of the waste stream now, right? We have alternatives, let's get them in place and get the plastic out of the system. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've been talking for quite a bit.
Nope.
Going to the next few slides are just showing you specifically a lot of the items that we're not going to be able to offer our customers if this moves through as a full-fledged ban of 1 through 7. So again, from a food safety perspective and replacement packaging, a lot of our cut fruit, so we have assorted cut fruit, we have the large vegetable trays, we have our luau bowls. Any of these items that we cut and package in store would not be able to be offered to the customer as they are now, because we do not have an alternative packaging. And the list goes on. This is not exhaustive, just giving you kind of the high ticket, I shouldn't say high ticket, but the large sell items, right, that customers typically purchase the most, but there are other items that we wouldn't be able to sell. When you look at bakery, again, our cake boxes have the window if we were to move to a cake type box, and that would still be a non-compliant container. So our cakes would not be an option for us. We would not be able to sell our cakes, our baked cookies, our muffins, any of those pastries, turnovers, decorated cakes and cupcakes. Our artisan bread wouldn't be able to be sold at the store because of the packaging. A lot of our rolls and bagels and all of those single type serve desserts and things like that, because of the type of packaging we have. And you can see in the picture here, one of the concerns is that black plastic, right? From a food safety and quality and longevity of protecting the product, a lot of our products have to have that bottom with them at the moment anyway. When you look at deli and prepared foods, we break our department into service deli and prepared foods, which is our hot foods and things like that. But even when you talk about our deli meats and cheeses that we slice, the deli bags are non-compliant right now. Hot dogs, platters, bulk olives that customers can package themselves, our store-made platters, our sliced cheese and meat platters, our rotisserie chickens. Even though it's a paper bag, the paper bag has a window and a wax coating. So that making it food safe, making it hot safe, right, temperature safe, those would not be able to be sold. Our fried chicken, wings, tenders, nuggets, all of those fried chicken items would not be able to be sold. We make our own rotisserie chicken salad. We package that ourselves. That would not be able to be sold. All of our catering packages, platters, and store-made sandwiches would also not be available to the consumer at this point in time. And then when you talk about seafood, anything that's purchased by the consumer at the seafood case, again, we use typically a number 3 plastic film to package the product from a safety and quality perspective. And again, that's a number 3 plastic film. So that would also be impacted. So I'm not quite sure what we would be packing the seafood in. Again, something we might be able to find an alternative for eventually, but something that obviously concerns us, it being the Cape. Obviously, seafood is a plentiful thing on the Cape and something that our customers go to seek during this, especially during this time of the year. So At this point, that's all I have to share. I do have the other slides that we had, that we shared previously that goes through that. I know Tina and Adam there went through specifically and showed you the containers. Those slides are still in this presentation. But this last slide was just kind of opening it up to some questions that we had. Outside of the fact that, does this ban have to be everything? Right? Do we have to ban all 1 through 7, or can we focus on items that we can replace now, get them out of the waste stream, and possibly revisit this every 6 months, every 12 months as a group, keep this task force alive so that we can all be focused on continuing to look for alternatives, right, to get more plastics out of the waste stream. Also, third-party verification, the regulation isn't entirely clear on that, at least not to us. Like, what does that look like? Who are the third parties? Who actually says that they're okay to be verifying? Or can we just rely on our supplier, that our supplier says these are, compostable, these meet the requirements, and then we're good to go? So kind of an open question for us. The other question that was a little bit open is the whole definition of food service establishment, right? Depending on how you interpret that. I know several meetings back, one of the restaurateurs had mentioned that the intent of this ordinance was for restaurants, single service, takeout, that kind of thing. And it seems like when we rope in food establishment in that definition, you're obviously pulling in the retail space, which is much different than the restaurant space. We have unique food considerations. We talked about food safety, all of that, quality. So we were questioning whether or not retail should be in this space. And if it is, again, can we talk about getting the products we can out of the waste stream first, and then focusing on the other items that don't have an alternative right now? And then the only other thing, we started hearing the rumblings in Mass legislature about an omnibus packaging bill, which focuses on plastic packaging. So even the state is talking about this because of the concerns that all these different towns are doing very different things around plastics and polystyrenes and things like that. So they're talking about a state bill, if you will, to reduce plastics as well. So just wanted to bring that to you because that just came to my attention a few weeks ago. So from an information perspective and a question perspective, that's kind of where I think we're good. The rest of the slides, just showing that this is an example where the slides that we shared probably about a month ago or so, when Adam and Tina brought in the packaging samples to show you.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question for you. Since
Yeah.
Falmouth is coming up very soon, have you guys started putting a variance letter together for their health department?
Well, we haven't because they don't have the variance process completed yet. I called to get the information to file a variance, and they're not done with it. So the only way I can see that we can comply by, I believe it's September 1st or September, it's a date in September, is to not sell these products. Unless they give us a grace period of whatever, 6 months, or because the other thing is we'd like to use through our existing packaging, right, in the store, and then move to some of the alternatives. But if they ban, which is in their ordinance, 1 through 7, right now we just can't sell all of these food items. All the items that I just showed you and more would not be able to be sold in the Falmouth store.
Thank you.
Sure.
Do I have to go to a mic for her to hear me? Christine, can you hear me?
Barely, sorry. I'm turning my volume up here.
We'll get your microphone.
Thank you. So, why do you have to use the black plastic bases for the cakes and so on?
Well, we're using them for the quality of the product and longevity, right? So they're a lot more sturdy when you're carrying a cake around, taking it home and going to be wherever you're traveling with it than the paperboard boxes.
But why does it
We
have to
do
be
have
black?
we do have paperboard boxes in certain towns that have banned them, and they've allowed us to keep those. Keep in mind they have a plastic window. So if you're banning 1 through 7 totally, those paper boxes with the plastic window are not compliant.
we're trying to dig down into eliminating black and maybe blue plastics. So
Yep.
having a different color, solid base would be beneficial. It would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I can bring that. As of right now, I'm being told that we don't have an alternative for that. I mean, I can keep bringing that back. But I think Wayne expressed that on the last call. He's from our organization that we don't have a current option for that, which is why in certain towns we have the paperboard boxes with the clear plastic screen on top so the customer can actually see what the cake looks like, right? It's like a little plastic viewing window, if you will.
The other thing is I picked up on, you said you have wax cardboard recycling.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so some of our products come in, like a lot of our produce, if it's wet produce, will come in wax cardboard, and we actually break that down and recycle that.
So that would be something that, if we were bringing those wax cardboard items, if we were using that ourselves, that could be recycled. So maybe
Well,
that's
we don't
something to look
recycle
at.
that for the town. We don't recycle that for the customers. The only thing that we recycle for the customers is the front end items like the plastics, those containers I showed you, containers and bottles. That's it. The internal recycling that we do as an organization is cardboard, wax board, and back of the house items like woods, metals. We do that internally. We take any items that we take in, process it, and then send it back to our distribution center.
So we're trying to find alternatives, and this seems like it might be an alternative that you could work with us on. And then cellophane sleeves, I know you use some cellophane for breads and so on. So there's more options for that. And the last question I had is, if I bring my own container eventually, could Stop and Shop put my roasted chicken in that?
That becomes a food safety issue.
Right.
I can't guarantee that container is clean and sanitized, and now I'm handling your container and putting our product in it. New York was proposing that kind of a legislation and has not moved forward with it, primarily because of the food safety issues. Our products are coming in sterile, we're packaging the items and presenting them to the consumer. I can't tell how a customer is handling their own package when they bring it in. And it could be if it's chicken, if it's a hot item, I don't know if that package is designed for hot items. So if I put it in there, are you going to burn yourself, right? So there's safety concerns is in addition to food safety concerns.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, Phil Gesson has his hand up.
Okay. Phil, go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I was having issues earlier and I missed the initial portion of the meeting and I was able to catch the second half of Christina's presentation. I guess I'll introduce myself quickly and then maybe say some thoughts if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So my name's Philip Gesson. I am from Falmouth, Massachusetts. I had worked on the plastic reduction regulation in Falmouth, and I really appreciate the invite to this meeting, and I'm glad to see that these conversations are happening in Yarmouth as well. First off, Christina, thank you very much for the insight and the presentation. I think you bring up a lot of really good points, and and it's kind of validating to consistently hear the same discussions. We spent 2 years talking about and thinking about this issue in Falmouth to fine tune what we put down on paper as the final regulation before we presented it to the town. And a lot of the concerns that you bring up in terms of like it being a holistic ban, some products not having alternatives, and the food health and safety concerns, that was definitely great. Like it took up a lot of our real estate in our conversation when we were trying to form this, and we had gone through several iterations of, hey, maybe we can come up with like a list of low-hanging fruit of items to say that this won't be allowed and this won't be allowed. But once you go down those rabbit holes, what we found was really that's not up to a committee, that's not their boots on the ground dealing with these products and these practices and these supply chains and the people in them every day. Like, there's no way that a single regulation, a single document, a piece of paper would be able to capture that. But what it could do is define a framework in which people can cooperate together to move a community towards a more sustainable approach and relationship with plastic. And so although the outright ban, and I can only speak for what we came up with in Falmouth, and I can't speak for what the town is currently doing in terms of sustaining the regulation. I'm a little out of the loop on that, but in terms of the intent of the regulation and the way it's formed, it's a framework for different people and individuals in town to work together to move towards reduced plastic, reduced amount of plastic use relationship with plastic. And so we tried to make it as general and as reasonable as possible. And one of the biggest concerns is, yes, health and safety. And also one of the key points in the town community and the town enforcement, like in the system of the town, of like one person or a couple of people who interact with the food establishments consistently are the health inspectors. And so that's why they're granted the authority to kind of grant waivers and make those decisions as to whether or not certain items are allowed to have waivers and certain items are not. And it's stated pretty generally in the regulation because it should be general, because it should be a common sense decision, and it isn't like you were saying, there are all, I think you had mentioned a couple of times that that for say the wrapping that you use for seafood, that you may be able to find an alternative for that, but at the moment there isn't motive to look for those alternatives. And the point of this regulation, the point of what we came up with, isn't to be punitive and to put businesses under. It's to really motivate some thought and some behavior change, and very reasonably grant waivers for items that and the number one reason for why you would get a waiver for a plastic item is there does not exist a suitable alternative. And so I think it's important just to think about that from that perspective, because there were a lot of with the two business owners that we had on our committee, they made a lot of changes through the course of our time working on that committee in their own business practices that were both profitable to them and reduced a lot of plastic, just because they were involved in this space and then had the motivation and the need to look for alternative products out there. And so this isn't meant to kind of put the community down under and say, no, you can't use plastic at all, anywhere, anytime. It's to understand the fact that we live in an age where there are already a lot of technological solutions to a lot of these products, but there isn't any kind of common understanding of what those solutions are. And so how do we as a community transition the entire community towards a more sustainable structure? So I guess I just want to, I think that's really the biggest thought that was floating around in my head, in terms of if I can provide some insight on what our perspective was approaching this. It's not a punitive, complete ban on all plastics. The initial first step, if you don't have to use plastic anywhere in any part of your business, go right ahead, and you don't even have to worry about like any waiver process. But if you do need to use plastic, you can go ahead and use plastic, as long as you do the due diligence to show that you do need to use plastic. And I think you've done the due diligence in a lot of what you've done here in the presentation. That should be worth enough to grant a waiver. And also one of the biggest common themes through the construction of this regulation, that it's going to be a very gradual rollout, and that there's going to be a lot of leniency in maybe even the first couple of years in terms of how the enforcement or the policy decisions are going to be made in terms of where waivers are granted in what way. And there's that distinction between regulation there's that distinction between bylaw, regulation, and policy. And so the regulation is kind of setting the standard of who makes the decisions on what and how they'll do it, and then the policy is really what will guide the the actual implementation of that. So that may have been a lot of thoughts that were. I hope that was in some ways insightful to some members of the committee, and I'm happy to answer questions on what. If there's any insight I can provide on what we did in Falmouth, I understand that was the kind of the context of the invite, but I'm also very happy to just sit back and listen to what you guys are up to. So thank you.
Thank you. Phil, I may have a question in a minute, but I want to pick up on something that Christina mentioned, and it dawned on me, and it'll bring this back to all of us here, that this regulation that we're talking about in the context of a health regulation, there's a balance here. It's not just banning plastics, but health, as you know, deals with looking at safety of products and all the things she talked about why you wouldn't use a container that someone brings there because it may not be sanitary. And so I was looking as she was talking about what the waiver criteria is that we've put there. And we've got 3 items. And I thought to myself, is it possible to consider a 4th item? If you look at page 3, paragraph 4A, subparagraphs 1, 2, and 3, one of the things that is not here is this balance of food safety. And so I'm just sitting here thinking about a paragraph 4, that a reason that could be given would be the following: public health protection / food safety best practices. What does that do? It gives the discretion to this time, health agent, in the instance of granting a waiver, and I would even suggesting we add it as a variance criteria, so you pick up all 7 of the plastics, that now you have this balance where maybe there is a suitable alternative, but it's not in the best food safety practice for here in the community. Because that's an important balance as far as I'm concerned, is we can get rid of all the plastics we want, but if we're going to start selling products that are either going to spoil or people are going to get sick, we haven't done the community a favor. And so my suggestion would be a paragraph 4, and then a paragraph 3 under the variance criteria, adding the same thing: public health protection / food safety best practices. It's vague enough, but and I'm willing to take some more thoughts and comments on that suggestion, whether it's from any of the committee members, anyone from Stop and Shop, anyone else. So let me just talk internally here first, and then I'll recognize you, sir. Any thoughts on that, folks?
I do, in terms of what Christina said about some items have heat standards. So it wouldn't be just public health protection and best practices, but food safety standards.
So food safety best practices and standards?
Right. Jamie, can you please clarify where you're putting this?
Sure. So I'm starting in paragraph 4. It's waivers for specific plastics.
Yep,
There's a subparagraph A,
yep,
and you'll see 1, 2, and 3 below that.
got it.
I would put a Roman numeral 4. Public health protection / food safety best practices and standards. And then turning to paragraph 5A, a new subparagraph 3. Public health protection / food safety best practices and standards. I think this then gives, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Christina, please weigh in. I think this gives the health agent the discretion to have that as a criteria, and it
Yep.
then gives the vendor the opportunity to make the case, as it were, as to why it's necessary to continue to use plastics, and it covers all 7 of them because it can be either through the waiver or the variance criteria. So rather than having a laundry list of all the things that are excluded, you can then just have a bylaw that gives you the discretion to grant that relief for 1 through 7 if you can meet those standards.
Yep, that seems to make sense to me.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, because we were talking about that,
Can you just come to a microphone and then just identify yourself? case, you know,
My
in
name's
case there's a
Adam
big,
Smith.
long record of this thing somewhere down the line, and we have to testify in Congress about what we did here or whatnot. So we just have a record.
So Adam Smith, store manager of the Yarmouth Stop and Shop on
Thank you.
55 Quaker. Under section C there, it says petroleum-based identified as resin. It says waivers there may be granted for the following products only. If we were to make that a food safety thing, should this say 1 through 7? You know what I'm saying? Because some of those waivers there are, I think those plastics for heat, I think are, I believe 7, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to go back through my, but should be changed there instead of 1, 2, and 5 only to 1 through 7?
I see what you're talking about, and I guess the distinction that I would make there is 1, 2, and 5, I guess to quote Haley's phrase, are not as bad as the other ones, right? So,
But granting waivers there, it says it's granting waivers for only 1, 2,
right,
and 5.
but what I'm suggesting is you could then, for all the other ones, you could ask to get a variance, and the criteria is somewhat the same, but the standard can be a little bit higher.
Yep.
But again, we have to be a little more particular
Absolutely.
about how we use the ones that are the bad numbers versus the ones that are the good numbers. So I still think, I'll use your company as an example, I think you're protected that you could say, look, we need to use a number 7, and we need to use this number 7, or whichever is the horrible one, and we need it because it's in the best food safety practice in the industry, et cetera, et cetera.
Understood.
You get the opportunity to make that presentation and present that criteria. Whether or not it's a waiver or a variance, you get the opportunity to pitch it.
Understood. I didn't
Does
know.
everyone else, does that make sense? Okay. So that's a good question, and thank you for bringing it up, but I think it's covered, for lack of a better word, in that regard?
I have a question for Phil.
Sure.
Phil, thank you for coming to the meeting. I have a question. It sounds as if your committee must have envisioned many waiver requests, initially anyway. Is he still there?
We did, yes, I am still here. We did consider that there would be waiver requests coming in initially, yes, and that it would take some time for everything to run completely smoothly.
Phil, I'm sorry, do you have any other questions? Phil, I have a question for you. So you're about 6 weeks away from the implementation of this regulation in Falmouth. To date, what, if anything, have been done in town to notify businesses or put them on notice of the fact that this is coming or educate them that it's coming? What types of things have you folks done there to, because admittedly, there will be some folks that on the end of August, September 1st are going to have no idea in Falmouth
Yes, sir.
that this
Yes,
is
sir.
happening
Yeah.
there. And I don't mean that disrespectful. It's just what happened here in Yarmouth. There were people who had no idea we were banning water bottles. So I'm just curious to know what steps have been rolled out to educate or inform those who are impacted by this as vendors or food establishments.
Yes, sir. So that was definitely a common shared understanding that we had on the committee, that it's not going to happen right away, and even the understanding of what is happening is not going to happen right away. So all the avenues that any regulation that gets passed through have been officially all the media through which you can notify, including the health inspector. The health department has a list, an email list of all the businesses through which they have to, I understand there's an email list that the health inspector has that he reaches out to businesses with about updates. If they don't read that, then there's also, it's been a pretty public issue in general throughout Falmouth, with various postings in the newspaper, various articles. We've hosted different info sessions through the time period of constructing the regulation itself, and it's I think there were a couple of headlines when it passed, and as it was being discussed publicly to get passed. So we've tried to kind of go through and come up with some through what avenues there exist in the newspaper, in the internal channels that the health inspectors has with the businesses, and we've been in touch with the Chamber of Commerce, and I think there was a notification sent through the chamber there as well. I can't speak for everything that has been done, but I will say that was definitely a consideration, that it'll take some time for everybody to understand what happens, and that it is in place, and there will be people who will find out at their next health inspection because they haven't been in tune with the internal politics until it directly impacts them.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that, please?
Sure, please.
So I reached out to Scott, the director in Falmouth, and I asked him that same question. He sent me just an email, kind of what they sent out. They sent out their ordinance, and then they sent out a simplified version of it, of just, this is what's going on, this is the dates, be prepared. So they have a mass email list that they sent out. With our OpenGov system we have here, we can do the same thing. We have every establishment's email address. We just have to put together, once we finalize our regulations and stuff like that, put it together, put an email together, get it approved, and then just blast it out to everybody. And then, once we get that out, then we can take hard copies to the establishments when we're doing our inspections. The problem with hard copies is, when I go into your restaurant, you're not there, I give it to a 16-year-old kid who, they're all right, and then they don't give it to him. So the emails are good. They usually go to the person that's putting their name and email address on the application, so.
Thank you. Phil, I have another question, unless anyone else has one.
Yeah.
Over the period of years that you guys worked on this thing, did you hear from some folks who had concerns that, well, this is coming up September 1st, but I've got 6 months worth of product that I've got in my inventory right now, and what do I do about that? And did you ever consider the use of your existing inventory to constitute an undue financial hardship? That is, could somebody make the argument in Falmouth, and then here, that I have to kind of use up what I've got, or I'm just lighting that money on fire, and then I can move on to another product?
100%. That was something that was discussed and considered because we understood that some businesses plan out months, if not a year ahead. And to a reasonable extent, yes, that was something that would be waived. But at the same time, it was a question of like, did you buy it in August for 6 months in advance, knowing that this was going to be a regulation that was going to hit? Or is this a legitimate, genuine, like if it's it would have fallen under the considerations, and if it was a genuine feature of the way in which they run their business practice, rather than like trying to get as much out of the regulation as possible, it would have been waived. Yeah.
No, thank you. That was helpful, because it, I think, just clarifies that there's two sides to that coin. It's not just the undue hardship of buying new product, it's the undue hardship of not being able to use the product you have. And that seems like that was considered there. Excellent. All right. Anyone else? Anyone else here have any questions?
I was wondering, my church does a lot of food preparation stuff as opposed to cookies and all that stuff. Is it going to, I know that they serve hot meals. Is this going to affect them? I know we do have a health inspector actually coming up Friday, coming in there, and I didn't know whether you're looking at what we use or what we make available to people who rent the place.
We will be looking at that. I know long-term care facilities, they're exempt from this, right?
Yeah, this was part of, and you raised the point of with
Okay.
the food establishment definition. It's going to probably help answer that question
Yeah.
of who's in and who's out, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Well, I wouldn't want them to be out of it.
No.
I just want them to recognize they need to also head in this direction. Because
I understand.
I know the people who do it at my church too. And they do as little as possible. So this is just a thought. Just a thought. Thank you.
No, it's a good thought.
Jamie, it's kind of speaking to what you're kind of getting at as far as, what you guys asked Phil about. Oh, he bought it in August knowing this is coming in September to try and almost take advantage of the situation and the system. Be like, hey, I purchased a year out. I have all my stuff. Can I get my waiver? And then you just go about your business as you normally would for another year. And then you got an extension essentially on this, but you knew it was happening. In running the restaurant, it's something that playing the devil's advocate to this policy, how would people be able to skirt this regulation as long as they could or as far as they could because they just don't want to change because they don't want to take the time to do it realistically? I think that's going to be the hard part, I think, for the health inspector to kind of define between, are you being genuine or are you trying to skirt the system in doing so? Are you making a full-fledged effort to comply? And this was just a, happenstance that you purchased, 80 cases of, to-go boxes ahead of time. So I think that is one of the, and I think that's what Philip was saying as far as we do understand that there's going to be some time and some, there could be a whole season for someone that it takes them to comply by the end of next summer sort of thing because they've already purchased their stuff ahead of time. So
I agree with
Ours doesn't go in effect until January 1st, so that's after the season.
Yeah.
So we could train our agents to, all right, you have a storeroom full of plastic. I would like to see the invoice. Just keep the invoice with it or a copy of it and be like,
but for seasonal stuff so say like a beachfront, fry shack that's doing stuff right now, they're gonna close up, say, just after Labor Day.
yep.
And they fly to, just say Florida for the rest of the year. They don't come back until next spring. So they may not even be aware of this until they get back and be like, hey, I already have my stock for this upcoming season. Again, I think it's just gonna make sure it's gonna come down to the health agent to really define whether or not there was a genuine approach to this or whether or not it's something that we're just trying to get by this policy or not.
So one of the ways you can deal with that is, let's use your example of the place that closes up and they go away for the winter, all right? In September of 2025, they buy enough product for 2 years. But every year before that, their inventory was, a month at a time. You can claw back that information of what your buying practices was. If you really wanted to drill down on it, you could figure out, is somebody doing this on the eve of the regulation, or is this a practice that they normally did? It almost might be obvious at some point that someone's trying to game the system, I would think. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, because you can verify through records of, well, when did you buy all this and what have your buying practices been? I'm sure you have a history of buying practices
Yeah.
that you could demonstrate, and I'm sure Aiden has the same thing that you could demonstrate. There's some anomalies, I get that, but if you've got this massive bulk purchase the day before the regulation goes into effect, I don't think you've helped yourself, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I would say a year, just with the seasonality of the way the Yarmouth is, a year is plenty. I don't see anybody buying out more than a year out. And it's the ones that, the beach shacks, the clam shacks, they're the ones that, starting in January, you guys start looking into seeing what your purchase power is gonna be. So I would, a year I would be fine with, but take each one individually and look at it, so.
I think, I guess I have the most experience since I'm the beach shack that closes down. I don't go anywhere in the wintertime though, just to be clear. I stay here.
That is not true.
I stay here. Well, majority of the time I'm here. So, probably, I already started thinking about next year's season, as crazy as that is. I had a girl apply for a job for next season 2 weeks ago. I said, wow, you're putting a lot of thought into next year. Buying is probably around January that we'll start to have people come to us and say, hey, look, like, this is what you bought last year. We will have some products left over at the end of the season. We always do. They're paper goods, they're plastic. It doesn't necessarily go bad. We wouldn't have more than a year's worth. That would just be, I don't know anywhere that would even have the space to have a year's worth of product. So I think some leniency is definitely worthwhile. But it's in good faith, right? So if places are operating in good faith, I think that, you know, leniency can be shown. There's a funny anecdote that's something similar. The eve before the before Kennedy banned Cuban goods from coming to the United States, he bought 1,200 cases of cigars. So that wasn't good faith, right? But if a business is doing operations normally, I don't think it should be a problem. You know, and I think the one thing that I'll say is that the Board of Health always works with businesses, not, you know, hammering businesses down. So I think that you'll be able to tell in good faith who's doing what they need to be doing.
We can work with local distributors also, reach out to US Foods, Cisco, PFG,
Yep.
Paper, Cape Cod Paper, and let them know what's going on. And
The earlier the better, I think. I know we have a timeline that, you know, we have some deadline set, but if before this goes into effect, hey, this is, you know, what's coming down the pipe, and this will be the kind of leniency we can show is really helpful.
I have a question for Mary. Mary, how aware do you think members of the chamber are that we are sitting here today deciding these things that are going to go into effect?
It's the second paragraph in my newsletter this month.
So everybody knows.
All right.
No, but I mean, you know, there's about 700 people that get our newsletter every month.
Great.
Some are community members, but we do our due diligence to notify the business community as much as we can about what we're working on.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Phil, Christina, we have you both. Is there anything else either one of you would like to add?
It's just that it's really great to hear these conversations happening, and I'm excited to see where y'all go. And I'm happy to respond to questions offline as well. If anybody wants to reach out, my email is just philip.gessen@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out with any questions you have. If I can answer them, I will, or I'll try and point you in the right direction. Thanks.
We have one question here.
We do have a question here. Go ahead.
Why don't you go to this mic here?
Phil, hold on. We got a question for you.
I'm all ears.
Phil, again, forgive me there. I do have a question. How does Falmouth handle applying for the variances there for the plastic ban as of right now?
Right.
Is
So
it
that
in-
is.
Is it individual based, or is it a commodity? Is it by product? Is it by UPC? Or is it the container? I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the general pipeline that we had discussed, and it'll take it, I think, some time for it to run completely smoothly. But there is a waiver form that should be available from the health department, and for any use case, for any plastic item type that you want a waiver for. And I just want to pull it up to be accurate. If you give me 2 seconds.
So Philip, this is Christina. That waiver because I called Falmouth last week and they said that they didn't have the final waiver information available yet.
Understood. So I can't speak for the way they're operating it now. I can speak on how the intent of the committee when we constructed this, and I can definitely look into the current status of that. But the intent is to have a waiver form for any plastic item that you need to use. And so the three reasons for being able to use a plastic item: there's no suitable alternative, or there's supply chain issues that don't allow you to use that any other product other than the plastic product, or it causes undue financial hardship. In that form, you need to detail that you did your due diligence. You didn't just throw your hands up and say, I can't do this. You did your due diligence, maybe list out a couple places that you called, or generally just, it's a form that shows your due diligence for the specific plastic product when you're saying that you need a waiver for it. And so it would be on a plastic, I can't find the form in front of me. That's why I'm kind of spitting it off the top of my head and stumbling on my words a little bit because I'm remembering exactly what it was. So it was the quantity of the items that you generally use, the type of item, and the use case for it. And that's also a part of the process is going to be the health inspectors themselves understanding what the landscape looks like for plastic products. And the idea is to initially have it be very relaxed. And then as the health inspectors see, oh, hey, this guy down the street is using these organic clamshells while you're asking for a waiver for a use case that needs clamshells, and I can point you in that direction and ask you to either do a little more due diligence or in determining why that specific use case needs a plastic clamshell, or you can find the supplier who sells the organic clamshells and see if that's a real tractable option. So it's more like a collective educational initiative, if nothing else. So in a very long-winded fashion, it's on a per plastic product basis, detailing the use case of the due diligence that you did in order to show that that use case requires plastic. And so that's something that you upload to in Falmouth, we've got Permadize. And so that's how you submit that to the health department. And the health department can review that during inspection or at some other time in order to make a determination on the waiver.
Christina,
Does that answer your question?
Christina, go ahead. See your hand up.
Yeah, my concern with that, obviously, we've been doing our due diligence on all of these items already. My concern is if we had to do, say, a due diligence report on every single item, and I showed you all the lists of items we won't be able to carry, and that's not even all of them. Mm-hmm. I will be submitting 15,000 things.
I'm sorry. It's when I say due diligence, it's no bigger. There's 5 different waiver requests fit on a single sheet of paper that's expected to be written out in handwriting.
I was just wondering if you could bulk them. If I have these 15 package items that I don't have an alternative for, can I bulk the waiver and just list the packages and say the reason we don't have alternatives is because, we've done our due diligence and here's the reason we don't have an alternative for this, versus submitting a form for every single package.
Understood. So that's a great point and a great perspective. And I think that's a policy decision on the health department that's not encoded in the regulation. So what I talked about just now was what we had generally talked about, and I think the health department hasn't posted the official form, like you said, yet. So that could be a 100% viable also option of displaying your due diligence. And this is my personal perspective. That would be a viable option. And I think bringing that up in discussions with the health department would also yield some fruitful results for you. And that's kind of the point of, again, this regulation is a framework talking about, in a very general sense, how we want to operate, but there is leeway in the policy decisions and in the ways in which these different things are adjudicated. So for that bulk, that specific scenario of a bulk thing, I could imagine, yeah, if you have this use case of different sized items for different sized clamshells that you need in plastic, it would be unreasonable for you to submit 5 different waiver requests for a specific item because it's different sizes. And so I think that from my personal perspective and from and this isn't to be quoted, but as a policy of the town, but I think that would, in the intent of the regulation, in the way that we wrote it, that would be completely fine. And I would be surprised if the town did not accept that. Because the point isn't busy work. The point is not to make this a very painful process. It's to do something, because there's a lot of things out there. There's a lot of alternatives out there that we can be switching to. It's just there's a lack of need from the people who don't have any need to look into it, and they're happy with their practices now. And this shouldn't be a painful transition, but it's a transition that needs to happen in some way. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Christina, we
Understood.
noted at our last meeting that the regulation we've got drafted talks about a form, is the word, to be used for this purpose. And we were hoping that Falmouth had a form, and we would then work with it. But I see the point here. I think we have to be flexible. We can't have 1,500 pieces of paper submitted to the health department. We're banning plastics and killing reams of paper. So that seems counterintuitive. So I think it'll be incumbent upon us, if we can see that form, to then be able to work with it. But as far as I'm concerned, put as much on the form. If you're making a single waiver request, put as many things on it as you want and submit it. Why does every item have to have one piece of paper with it? But that's just my personal view. But we can work on that form.
That would be great.
No, we can work on that form.
Yeah, or maybe like one waiver form per reason. Like if my reason for not having an alternative is food safety, I'll, provide that in a waiver. If my reason is I don't have an alternative package, that would be a different waiver of items. Something like that might work.
Yeah, and I'm sure different businesses may use the form and apply it differently. So that's one alternative. I don't think that would be unacceptable to do it that way, but we'll work on that form. We noted that we have to work on that form, so. Does anyone have any other questions for either Christina or Phil?
I just have kind of an observation. I don't want to single out, the Stop and Shop folks, because, they've been wonderful enough to be with us every single meeting and, really trying to provide a lot of information. I do want to at least mention that, we talked about we're no longer going to be able to sell meat and fish. Those products are specifically exempted from both the original bylaw and the proposed regulations. So if it's raw fish, seafood, raw meat, that doesn't apply. So I don't think we'll have to, take those all off the shelf. And generally, what I'm hearing just almost as a bystander is, the community is really looking at ways to implement these potential waivers to, at least create a process where, we move in the right direction. But really what I'm seeing from the material we're being presented, it sort of reminds me of the initial shock when the whole idea of bans came up. It's just lump everything together and say, we're going to take it all off the shelves and there's no possible alternatives. And I think what we're going to need, quite honestly, is to have a better, if we know we're heading for this, something's going to happen in January, I think we need a better by-department analysis of the potential alternatives and things. And, and when you do the waivers, you just say, we're not gonna sell any more baked goods, fine. But, the idea that instead of having the completely plastic, you have a paper bag that has the loaf of bread in it. Even if the paper bag has the little window, that's better than having an all plastic bag. Maybe that could be your waiver. I just think that it's, the response is we're still dealing with this, it's impossible, we'll never make it, we're just going to shut down. And I really think if this is going to be successful and we're going to get through these waivers, we're going to have to get at some point, And it's not the, the local folks in Stop and Shop are really trying to get to the bottom of this. But I think when you get to that corporate level, there's still a lot of resistance in helping us through this. And I would just like to see as much commitment on behalf of the large-scale grocers as there is commitment from the Board of Health to try to meet us in the middle. And I'm just, going to be looking for a lot more than the generic sort of shock and awe of we'll never make it kind of thing. Because I think there may be, some things we can't get around, especially when you start talking about these heated foods and the food safety, what you have to have them in. I mean, there's a lot we're going to have to sacrifice here. But I think I'd like to see a little bit, better of a swing on some of the other stuff. And we have to move from this point to a different point. I'm not sure where that's going to be, but I just see that.
Christina, you have your hand up? Christina? Oh, she's off. Put her hands up.
Haley, do you have something?
Yeah, this was just on the open questions. I wanted to say this. Third-party verification, that refers to like OK, TUV, CMA, or BPI, which are all composting certifications. So if a company is saying that their product is compostable, unless it has like the seal that is one of the certifications, then we don't really, it could be greenwashing. It might not be compostable. So I think where you probably picked that out is under Section 3, Section C. One of the bullet points says bioplastics that are third-party certified to be home compostable. That's not something that we would have to pay for, or you would have to pay for. The company that's selling you that product, if they're claiming to be compostable, they would then need to get their certification themselves. But we're just saying, you can't use a product that says it's compostable unless it's certified to be compostable. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like I just said compostable a ton of times.
We did add the definition of third-party certification.
Yeah.
on page 3.
Yeah.
But
Christina, go ahead, Haley.
Oh, sorry, just one more thing. I also remember that, raw meat and stuff was not included. It was listed. I don't see it in this version that we have, so that would be something
Might get picked
to
up
add.
in the definition,
Yep.
and we haven't gotten to food establishment yet, but I think if you go to the regulation, and we haven't gotten to that, and we're probably gonna have to table that till our next meeting to go through it, but there are some things that are excluded.
Prepared on-premises food is where the, under the proposed regulation, where the raw comes in. And it's also included in the definition, in the original bylaw of prepared food. So in both cases, the raw meat, and I guess the only inclusion of raw would be like the sushi that says if it's ready to eat, then it can't be in plastic. But if you have to cook it or do anything with it, then it's not included. I mean, that's a little helpful.
Should also say then seafood, because it just says meat.
It says seafood, I think.
Where are you reading from?
Definitions. Yeah, page 2, prepared on-premises
Not
food.
seafood.
This does not include prepared on-premises food. The last sentence is where raw uncooked meat products is.
We should put seafood in that, too.
Seafood, right. That's what it says in the bylaw.
Meat products or seafood.
Meat or seafood.
Good catch.
While you're all writing down, just to answer Liz's question from earlier about the catering trays and the black plastic and why she can't just use, why they can't use white because there is none. The large industry that produces those, I forget how many years ago, determined that catered items look better aesthetically on black than they do on clear because of whatever table or prop you're going to prop it on. the client that purchases that does not want to see that on their own table or tablecloth or display. So the black was always an aesthetic reasoning for that. That's also why there's black plastic bottom clear to-go containers, just because aesthetically it makes your food pop better, look better. So it has nothing to do with choice, but as far as the catered domes for cakes and catering trays, I know for a fact that it's very, very limited. I can't think of any name brand company that provides a clear bottomed catering tray that I can think of in all the years I've worked in restaurants. So, but just to answer that question for that.
Interesting.
Okay. So we do have on the agenda food establishment definition, but we're gonna run into a hard stop at 4 o'clock. So if nobody minds, if we can just carry that over to our next agenda. Just a housekeep, can we skip and just approve the minutes from 7/2/25 so we don't have that lingering out there? Has anyone had a chance to look at the minutes from that meeting? Any questions, comments, concerns? Anyone have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No. Okay. In terms of the review of draft regulation, sent around another red line version, so what, we accepted the red line changes from the previous meeting and then carried forward some new things for folks to look at. If someone could help us find a polystyrene definition, that would be helpful.
Yeah.
We can then run through these, add a few things that we've talked about today, and then have another version available for our next meeting to go through. But I'd like to focus on that food establishment definition, because that's the one piece we don't have ready to add yet. But does anyone have any questions, thoughts, comments about the draft regulation that was circulated? I think we picked up all of the things we talked about.
Jamie, I have a couple of questions about some of the terminology in here. My Latin isn't that good, but what is de novo
De novo
review?
means, it's funny,
I said the same thing.
de novo means basically, it's a new hearing.
Okay.
So you get an opportunity for a do-over, start new, that's what the de novo review means.
Can we
Okay,
just
okay,
say
great.
that, a new hearing? Have to use that Latin term.
I don't know, I copied that from zoning terms, so I'm kind of partial to it, if you don't mind, okay?
Then you have to put it in definitions.
Let's see where it is.
Yeah, let's do the definitions.
Page 5, yeah.
Did fix the spelling of the three.
Up at the top.
And it's actually it's two separate words.
It is two separate words.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the only reason I went with that was, because theoretically, if you are aggrieved by a Board of Health decision, you have a right to challenge that. I mean, if someone wants to take this thing to the Supreme Court over a waiver, I guess they have the right to do it. But at least the reviewing entity would know what a de novo hearing means, what your opportunity was before the Board of Health. That's all. Not trying to baffle anyone with Latin, but
Now, some of the Board of Health knows what de novo means.
there we go. I'll come to the,
And the other question I had relates to the distinction between a waiver and a variance. Somebody could enlighten me on that.
yeah, there's not a whole lot of differential. I'll tell you that really what you're talking about is, in this context, as I understand it, is waiver, we've got it spelled out for different types of items, and it can only be through the numbers we've got there. And it's a little bit less of a threshold, a little bit less of a hurdle to get over. A variance is just that. It's something is an absolute no, and you need to get relief from it. So it's a little bit higher standard that you've got to meet. In this instance, because we're dealing with those numbers that are more egregious, I guess. Or maybe that's the wrong word, all right? That's how I understand the process. They're not terribly dissimilar, but it's really the focus of what are you asking for relief from?
And did we say the health agent can grant a waiver, but a variance has to go through the Board of Health?
No, we changed it so the health agent could grant both, but we also changed it so that if the health agent felt that in the first instance you needed to go to the Board of Health, you would have to go to the Board of Health. But to the point we talked about, we didn't want to be flooding the agenda of the Health Board in January.
With 15,000 requests.
15,000 variance requests. I mean,
Barry would never leave his office.
Get overtime.
Yeah.
Jamie, I think like in simple terms, a waiver is like an exemption versus a variance is like a modification, like,
yeah,
Okay.
that's
or
fair.
deviation from.
What, once I start getting these waivers or variances in, they're gonna be very similar between all the different establishments. And that's gonna be pretty easy. It's that one that's gonna come in, I'm like, well, no one else has asked for this waiver. Why do you need a waiver for the straw? There's other products out there. It's the single ones that I'll have to look into to see why no one else is using them, because I'm pretty sure most products are universal in Yarmouth, so.
But I think we picked all that up in the draft that we've got here.
I thought it looked very good.
Is it okay if I hop in there
Yeah, go ahead.
quickly? So for the waiver versus variance issue, just I guess I hadn't had a chance to look too closely through the Yarmouth regulation, but for the Falmouth regulation, the numbers that we specified, which were 1, 2, and 5, that waivers could be granted for, there exist recycling streams in Massachusetts where those items can be recycled. And so, yeah, for that, they're less egregious because they can be recycled. And so they're a little more sustainable versus the other products. You don't really find a lot of number 3, which is PVC, or number 4 and number 6, which is polystyrene, or number 7, plastics out there in the food industry. And so they're pretty rare in general. So the Board of Health was comfortable with having that be a variance process in Falmouth, just because there wasn't like an expectation that there would be a lot of products that would be requested to require a variance, because most of the stuff is captured by the waiver. Yeah, that's kind of the rationale behind the distinction between the two.
Thank you. Okay. So we do have a line item here for education. I guess that's just kind of a continuing, if you see a bylaw or something out there, or a paragraph or a provision of something you think would be helpful and fit what we're doing, circulate it along.
Jamie, before we move off of an overarching comment about definitions and the regulations, I was stumbling with, and in fact, when I came in, I noted that one definition we don't have is single-use disposable foodware and accessories. Or I'm trying to find a definition for that single use, because it's not really spelled out. And I noticed that in the preamble, we refer to what we're trying to handle, let's put it that way, eliminate the use of, and in one paragraph we say disposable plastic containers and utensils. And then in the second paragraph we say eliminate single-use disposable foodware and accessories. I would like to see us have some consistency in, I know it's a preamble, so it's trying not to be dry, but I want us to be very clear on our definitions in terms of the item that we're trying to handle, which I think is single-use disposable foodware and accessories. And maybe it should be defined.
Okay. Certainly, it's a good point. We'll take a look at it.
Thanks.
I do remember we said something about not saying single use, just because some plastic products, they say reusable, but they're not. So like, would they technically be a single use item? But I do agree with the saying disposable products. I think maybe, yeah, actually, never mind.
And following on that, Haley, if that's true, then we have to, there are places in here where it does reference single use. So we should take that out, I suppose.
If you look at that, Liz, it says single-use disposable foodware, and then later on, we define disposable foodware. So you could theoretically take out the word single-use, and we don't have to come up with another
There
definition.
you go.
Okay.
So remove single use.
I'm thinking, if anyone else, I mean, we can have everyone else take a look at that, but is that something to
That's,
consider?
it's bringing something in that we don't really need to, it just complicates the
Well, that's a good point. If
terminology.
we just take out the word single-use, we're reducing or eliminating disposable foodware,
Yes.
okay?
Yep.
Disposable foodware, I guess, can be defined, because it is. It could also cover accessory disposable foodware, which is the first item that's there. So I think we are,
That's
because
great.
that's and accessories, so I think we've got the definitions covered.
I agree. Good job.
Thank you, good comment.
Good catch.
Just make sure the very top, the header, then we change that
Doesn't
to
say single use, right.
Yeah.
very first word.
Disposable.
Should we say disposable plastic foodware? We're not really working on limiting any other type of disposable foodware.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, yeah, I like it.
So you want to change the title to disposable plastic foodware?
And then down in the last paragraph of the preamble,
And then the definition.
add disposable plastic foodware.
Here we go.
Jamie, you asked, you wanted the definition for polystyrene to be added. Are you looking to also have the other types of plastics like polypropylene, things like that added to it as well?
I thought I did add those.
PLA and PHA,
I'm the wrong guy to ask what about all those things, but
Okay. Well, I mean, I,
PFAS in there, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
Is there a definition in the ban on it? The town's ban on it?
I mean, they're both,
Just define
the
plastic.
one that we've got now?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
because if there is, we should use that one.
If we have one, we should just look. I don't recall, honestly.
There was one for plastics 1 through 7, the definition.
So
It just
I
said like
added-
synthetic polymer. Yeah.
From our very first meeting, when Stop and Shop went through them all, I actually added every one of them.
Oh,
We just need
Maybe,
polystyrene.
Haley, maybe you could help me double check.
yeah, absolutely. I do think polystyrene's a good one to have also because some people don't know it's polystyrene, they just think styrofoam. So, could be helpful.
If someone can find a definition, let's,
Well, Mike just said he had one,
great.
right? Mike?
You got one,
Did
Mike?
you just say that?
no, it's more just it's more just adding the different types of plastic, like,
Oh, all of
you're
them,
talking about polystyrene,
Right.
defining what essentially styrofoam is.
right.
I didn't know if we were also defining like the different types of plastics that we're talking about, like a polypropylene, which is a higher heat, heat laden, plastic and things like that. I didn't know if we were going into all the types of definitions in that or not.
I don't know.
I think we should have them all, and the polystyrene was specifically already mentioned, and we felt like we need to say it's already been banned in your.
Do you want me to work with Haley on that?
Yeah,
before
let's
the
see if we
next
can do
meeting?
that.
Because
Yeah.
Haley's, I think, the most educated.
Okay, sounds good.
Since we're nailing it, knocking them out, the other one that maybe we need to look at is the black plastic is referenced a number of times, but we're now realizing it's not just black. It's also blue.
Well, not to interrupt you, but
Yes, no, go ahead.
I really can't think of any other blue plastics that are used in restaurants. Just the only use case I could find was like the mushroom containers. So I don't know how relevant it would be to this bylaw,
Okay,
blue plastics.
that's fair.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
And,
Okay.
right, we probably aren't going to be able to cover everything. There'll always be something that'll come up.
Exactly.
And when we look at it again, we can discuss changing or.
I do have one small note also. With the third-party certification, I didn't see this definition earlier, but we should add OKTUV, which is another certification. Just to the definition, we have BPI, and Composting Manufacturer Alliance. OKTUV is another type of certification.
Okay, or OKAY?
No, just OK, just TUV. It's like a German certification,
Okay.
but it is certified by ASTM as well. But
Send that to me.
yes, I can send it to you. I don't even remember what the TUV stands for. It's something German, so I'll send that over.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Okay, other business, just one point. Our next meeting is July the 30th. We'll be here. On August the 13th, we're gonna have to find an alternate site.
Right now, we're planning on the chamber office.
Okay, so we'll circulate that, so everyone just kind of make it we'll be here, but on the 13th, we're gonna be at the chamber office. Okay. Any other business? Anybody? Thank you, everyone. See you none. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. The ayes have it. Thank you very much, everybody.
That's your timely, 4 o'clock.
I have one question, Dana.